Okay, it's time to have some fun. I get the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Robert Hernandez, our keynote speaker. I have only known Robert for 3 months. I met him at a Poynter training session where I went to learn how to do video. Heard him speak and said, we got to have him for this conference. So I know that you will be entertained and you will learn some new things from Robert. His whole formal bio is in your book, but I want to tell you one thing about Robert before, as part of his introduction, and that is that Robert came to journalism by accident. He thought he might be a drafting engineer. He walked into a newsroom and discovered, and I believe the exact quote is, the smartest, funniest, nerdiest, socially awkward people, and decided that's where he belonged. So for all of you journalism majors, we love you, right? And he does as well. It is my great, great pleasure to introduce Robert Hernandez.
Thank you guys for having me. So I am going to geek out with you guys, and you may or may not judge me, but that's the world I live in. I do have Google Glass, and you all can borrow it and do selfies. Allow me to be a jerk and look like a dork, but say, okay, Glass, take a picture. Took a picture, okay, Glass, share this with Twitter. So in theory, if my connection works, this image of us will be tweeted out on my @GlassJournalism account. I'll talk more about Google Glass. But first, thank you for having me here. And I want to celebrate another round of applause for the 10 years of this conference coming together. That's no small task. So I'm honored to be here among you guys. My talk is about hacking technology for journalism. I often say I hijack technology for journalism, but seeing that we're going to talk about government stuff afterwards, I didn't want to go there. But hopefully you can see the slides. It's a little dark. Maybe we can dim the lights up front here, possibly. So let me first define what I mean by hacking. Let me tell you what it's not. It is not these stock photos that we see on the internet and often hear the media talking about that the internet was hacked, and one headline I saw was 4 billion internet bytes were hacked or something like that. It makes no sense. I laughed out loud while I was watching these images because I don't know what hacker wears a party hat or how inefficient it is to type with one motorcycle glove. I don't get it. But when I'm referring to hacking, I'm not referring to these photos. I'm also, coming from LA, the land of Hollywood, I'm not referring to the movie Hackers. Does anyone see this horrible, beautiful movie, Hackers? All right, for my nerds in the back, I got something at the end for us. The Net, has anyone seen The Net? It is so bad, you have to see it. It is so bad. She orders pizza from pizza.net. It's gorgeous. And so Hollywood portrays these hackers and computer thinkers coming together. And of course, we know the Matrix that you can read code on. I do some code, but I am a product of the 80s. And so when I'm thinking of hacking, well, what I refer to as hacking comes originally from the original Hacker's Dictionary from 1988. There's about 12 different terms of what hacks mean. And what I'm focusing on is to do a quick job that produces something that is needed, but maybe not perfect, good enough. We call that prototyping. We're hacking things together. But I'm a product of the 80s, and I call that MacGyvering. Anyone know MacGyver? I'm MacGyver for journalism. Duct tape, chewing gum, smoke and mirrors, and I make something work. And I've been nerding out on a variety of different things, but I do it for journalism. One of the things that, now we know what hacking is, right? I'm not wearing a ski mask, and I'm not breaking into the mainframe or anything like that. I'm tinkering with stuff. And what am I tinkering with? Well, one was trying to figure out how Foursquare can be used for journalism. And you can, believe it or not, use Foursquare or now Swarm for journalism. Are there anyone who uses Foursquare anymore? one or two. I'm not even sure why I do it, but I still do it. But let me show you something you can do during breaking news. There was a shooting at Terminal 3 at LAX. From my office in LA, I checked into Terminal 3, and I found that these individuals also checked into that terminal, and I was able to track down people, their phone number, their bio, and their Instagram, where one of the folks was still on the plane trying to figure out what was happening, right? So this helps us find breaking news sources and eyewitnesses, right? Who thinks of Foursquare and thinks of journalism? I do, because I'm a dork, and that's what I'm paid to do, right? And it does work for Swarm. I checked in, and other folks have checked into campus. So it's not just me doing this stuff, and it lets you know how long ago they checked in. This helps us in breaking news, trying to figure that stuff out. Another example of what I hacked was Vines. I wanted to, instead of limit myself to my phone, I wanted to see if I could produce a video and upload it onto Vine. And of course, when you hack something, you have to Rickroll it. Hopefully you know that meme. So there's stuff that I've been doing for software, but I play with a variety of different technologies that are out there. And I'm going to go over some of the ones that I'm nerding out right now on, but I really want to cut to the chase and have some questions. I prefer a conversation opposed to me speaking and you listening. And in fact, just to kind of back up a little bit, my bio is in there, but I'm a digital journalism professor at USC. I've been there for 5 years, and I teach grad and undergrad courses on digital journalism, from multimedia storytelling to coding and to some of these nerdy things that we're going to talk about. Before I do, I want to say, again, why I hack, right? So this is one of my favorite bits of information I found because it helps illustrate the importance of MacGyvering solutions, right? So here is, there are different mediums and platforms. Let me ask you, how many years do you think it took for radio to hit 50 million users? Someone yell out some numbers while you're chewing. Radio. How long did it take radio to hit 50 million users? 10 years? 20? Took 38 years. TV to hit 50 million users? 20? It took 14 years. Internet to hit 50 million users. 10, 1. It took 4 years. The iPod. 6 days? Not quite. It took 3 years. Facebook? 1 year. It took 9 months to hit 100 million users. And for iPhone apps, 1 billion downloads in 9 months. I show this because the adoption rate of technology has skyrocketed. Did anyone play with the Yo app? Who knows the Yo app, right? All it does is say yo. That's it. Nearly 1 million people downloaded Yo, and I bet you 1 million of them stopped using it the day afterwards. But the adoption rate for technology is emerging, right? Raise your hand if you're on Snapchat, right? This is a form of communication, and there are smart folks who are using Snapchat or even Yo, including the Washington Post, to distribute information. Snapchat, the Washington Post used to crowdsource weather information. So these are emerging platforms that we used to wait till it hit a certain threshold, but we need to prototype and experiment with them because if our audience is there, we need to be there. So this is from a colleague of mine. He had a great talk about how technology has evolved. Again, to illustrate that point, the clock, if you recall, was first in a public place centuries ago. Then it got a little bit smaller in our living room, then our tabletop, and now it's intimate with us on our wrist if you still have a watch, right? So the speed of technology over time was about going from public places to smaller pieces on us, right? It's smaller, cheaper, more functions, more intimate. And we see that with the evolution of computers. Computers used to take up a whole room. And I just picked Apple because Apple products are awesome. I was not paid to say that. I should be now. They're very imperfect. But you see the evolution. Like, to think about having a supercomputer on my face was something out of sci-fi when this conference started, right? Twitter didn't exist then. These computers didn't fit in our back pocket. It's hard to believe. I think it was 07, 06, 07 when the first iPhone came out. You've got to remember the change that happened. If I would have been a kid in the 80s with my Macintosh and thinking of the future would be this phone with beautiful cameras on there, would have thought it was totally fake. But this is the evolution of technology, and what that also is that because the mobile phone is with us, it's the most intimate device that is widely adopted. This is a stat that's been around for a couple of years. It says that among US citizens, but I would say this globally, 91% of us, and I think it's probably undercounting, but 91% of us has our mobile phone within reach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Whether we like it or not, it's with us. It's probably the first thing you look at when you wake up. Raise your hand if that's the case. I'm not judging. It's the last thing you look at right before you go to sleep. Raise your hand if that's the case, right? How many of you have more than one phone? It's becoming more and more common. I'm not judging. I got two. One's an Android, one's an iOS. So this is a device that is really intimate because it's always with us, right? Whether it's in your back pocket and in your purse or on your nightstand, it's still within arm's reach. Some interesting stats as well. The UN found that more people globally have access to a mobile phone than they have access to a working toilet, right? There are more mobile phones than there are toothbrushes in the world. So this device is pretty widely adopted for better or for worse. Whether they're taking pictures of their food or looking at videos of cats or consuming some database, this is the mode of our reality, whether we like it or not. So this evolution is happening, and the next step, of course, is wearables, right? Glass wants it to be on your face. It feels really dorky and socially awkward, rightfully so, but it is in early beta stage. We've seen some on the wrist. This is the Pebble, one of the first that came out that was Kickstarter funded. I currently have, and I'm testing out the Android Wear watch that came out. Moto X, one from Motorola, is a nice one that a lot of my students have started to gravitate to. And if you notice, the size of the screen is pretty small. The new one that came out is the Apple Watch, and I think it looks ugly, in my opinion. It's really ugly. But there is a move to go from in our back pocket or in our purse or on our nightstand to our bodies, right? It is, whether we like it or not, it is always on. It's aware of where we're at, and it has really interesting potential. But these aren't the only devices that we know of. There's tons of different prototypes and devices that have been going around for many years, actually. Wearables is not a new idea. The father of wearables is Steve Mann, that came out of MIT. He was hacking hardware in the mid to late 80s. He currently has a glass-style device bolted to his head. And, you know, this is new, not necessarily new stuff, but it is hitting mainstream pretty fast. Who here owns a wearable device, meaning a Fitbit? Anyone have a Fitbit? Anyone have a Misfit, which is another wearable? I don't know what I'm doing with it, but allegedly I'm tracking my steps. But these devices are becoming more and more common. And I found when I used the Misfit, as an anecdote, the first time I got it, I was about a 5-minute walk away from reaching the goal that it told me was my goal. And I thought, okay, oh my God, I feel motivated that I should do something. So I started marching and doing jumping jacks in my hotel room, and I realized this little device did its job. It manipulated my need or want to complete a task without being judged in the privacy of my hotel room, so I can tell you that story awkwardly today. I hit my goal. Right? So these are all kind of being interwoven into our lives, whether we like it or not. It's coming. But one of the things about wearables that is important to me is something that a colleague, Mark Billinghurst, pointed out. is that the sweet spot for wearables hits six notes. One, it has to be hands-free. Two, it's got to be always on. Three, environment aware, connected to the internet, attention-getting, and what is key for us as journalists, a platform that we can develop on, right? So glass, whether it's the Apple Watch or the Android Watch, it's on our bodies, it's hands-free, it's always on, it's connected to the internet, it knows where you are. With Google Glass, it even knows where my face is pointing at. So that could be creepy if abused, but that can also be very powerful types of storytelling, right? It could be a new type of journalism that we need to figure out. What will an article look like on my wrist? That's what we're trying to do proactively at my school. We're hacking Google Glass. No, that's not what I meant. We're hacking Google Glass. Not that either. Or this, white men wearing Google Glass. Or this. Google Glass has a stigma of being, pardon my language, douchey, right? Who's heard of the term glass hole, right? Let me tell you something. They were a-holes before glass ever came to them, right? Anyone from the 80s remember the yuppies and car phones, right? So take out yuppies, put in glass hole. Take out car phones or cell phones and put in Google Glass, and that's the narrative that we're in right now. Who here will admit that when the Nokia brick phone came out, they said, I will never own a cell phone? Anyone here? I said I never wanted to have a cell phone. Why would I want that? But I got one, and then it had Snake, and I played Snake on it for a couple hours. And then the Motorola Razr came out, and I'm like, whoa, look how thin that phone is. And then a BlackBerry and all that stuff. The first camera that came out on phones, I looked at it and was like, who's going to ever take a picture with their phone? Right? These are things that we should learn from our experience in our industry in particular, that we need to adopt and adapt these new type of technologies proactively, right? So whenever I talk about Foursquare, there are folks who are like, Foursquare, why would I ever want to do that? Well, I want you to keep in mind that there are people who think of Twitter, and they think, why would I ever want to participate in Twitter? It's 140 characters. I don't care. I don't care what you had for lunch. That starts to sound a little bit to me as the folks that talked about blogs. Blogs, I'm the journalist. I know what I got the right. I've earned my reputation to write. What are you doing writing out of your mom's basement about whatever you want? And that's the same tone that I heard from people saying, the internet, that's a fad. We own this game, right? We need to be proactive in experimenting with these new devices. And that's why I'm taking one for the team and wearing these dorky glasses at times, right? And there are some examples already out there about glass journalism. This is one from Tim Pool, who does live streaming. He just left Vice to go to Fusion. And he talked about being able to discreetly live stream from Istanbul and block tear gas canisters that were thrown at him and still live stream. Really powerful stuff. This is one from The Verge. They put this on an NBA rookie. On draft day, he wore glass to document his day at the draft. Who's going to be drafted by the NBA? Raise your hand. Me either. This is the closest that we can experience that. Really powerful POV storytelling. But if you notice, they edited graphics and videos with it, so it's not just glass alone. There's a White House correspondent at NBC News, part of the press poll there, who's got glass, and he did a story about 24 hours with glass and the press corps. Lots of examples. My first user tester was my kid. As a parent, I saw my kid playing with a toy. I put glass on him and recorded. I walked away. And this, to me, was really awesome. You can hear his airplane noises and all this. Really interesting POV. Is this journalism? No. This is just me trying to figure out what POV stuff could happen. This is my class. This is a class that we're teaching, I'm teaching this fall. A third of us are journalists, a third of us are developers, and a third of us are misfits that are PR students, web developers, augmented reality artists, entrepreneurs, UX, UI designers. We're coming together to figure out what could journalism be on a wearable, particularly glass. Tuesday night, we had a meetup where we pitched our ideas. There happened to be a Japanese documentary crew there documenting it for us. But we're trying to come up with ideas of what would an article feel like on glass. What would it be for storytelling? What would it be for content creation? As a reporter, how can I gather information with these wearables, right? Using it for good. So here's one test that I wanted to do. Has anyone heard of Spritz? Excellent. You're all going to be my guinea pigs. I did a quick hack prototype where I can stream this video onto glass to do this test. But here's what's going to happen. It's going to flash one word at a time, 500 words a second. I need you to look at that line right there. Don't try to think too hard, but download/read. Here we go. Ready? $500 words a minute. Who understood what they just read, even though it didn't feel like reading? Pretty much the vast majority, and probably made a boring moment on the stream, but try it at home. It's spritzinc.com. And I want to test whether something like that could be a possible form for a screen this small, whether on my wrist or on my face. Could a long-form story be downloaded or consumed that way, or will my eyes start to bleed and I pass out? I don't know. I'm going to find out this semester. That's part of my plan. So we're hacking glass for journalism, but it still comes down to this. Content is king. And it's not about the device. A lot of people have gotten interested in my class and have asked me to speak because of Google Glass. And it's neat, and you should do a selfie with it and try it out. It's pretty cool. There are a lot of problems with it. The battery dies rather quickly. It overheats. It can burn you if it overheats. Still clunky, but there's a lot of potential there. And so I want people to remember it's not about the device. It's not about Twitter. It's not about Facebook. It's not about coding. It's what you do with these tools for journalism. Right? So it's not about the device, it's the content. In this particular case, it's the content optimized for the device. What will an article feel like for that? We need to figure that out. I want to be proactive in determining what that is. What will that article be? What will a video piece be? What will an audio piece be? I don't know, but I want to find out. Because if and when, and I say if and when, glass or something like it becomes mainstream, I don't want newspapers, news organizations to then start having this discussion. We did it before with social media. Oh, we should do that thing, right? We did it before for mobile. We've been saying mobile for about 5 years. I've now decided to say mobile is dead, wearables are next, are going to take over, just to kind of shock the system. It took us forever to acknowledge the value of the internet. Like, let's learn from our mistakes and be proactive about this type of new forms of storytelling. So that leads me to another thing that I've been hacking with, which is augmented reality. Anyone ever heard of AR? All right, so you can download the app in a bit, but what we did for another class is we augmented the downtown LA library. It's a gorgeous building, one of the oldest in LA, and we went and created experiences that you can trigger with your mobile phone. Here's one where we augmented this torch that when you point your device at the torch, buttons come up and you learn about an arson fire that from the 80s that changed the history of the city as well as the library. Let me go back. You can hold the device to translate books that are on sphinxes, to tell you the story of art, children's books, a puppet show. One of my favorite is we had access to the rare books collection, so we did 3D models of books. And you can interact with it. Instead of the books being locked up somewhere in the heart of the library, people can access it. One of my favorite is the Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven illustrated. It's gorgeous. You can flip through a gallery and see the illustrations inside, right? So I am currently thinking that wearables and AR will come together. This type of contextual storytelling is powerful. We do contextual storytelling. Well, this is another level because it knows where you are. So tell me the story of this room and why am I freezing, right? Tell me the story of this campus and what's over there when my face is pointed that way or in this direction. In fact, if you want to experience Yelp as AR as a consumer, Yelp has on their app, hidden in the corner under More, something called Monocle. And you hold that out, it accesses your GPS, turns on your camera, and it tells you what is around you, the reviews and all that good stuff that you get from Yelp. Right? So I believe AR is a potential type of storytelling form. I believe wearables or some variation to them is the next thing in evolution. So I'm trying to figure out how they come together. And what matters to me most is the journalism, the content. You can download the app that we did. If you go to arjournalism.tumblr.com, you can download the app and also try out visual markers there so you can experience the AR from, you don't have to be in LA or at the library to experience it. I just ordered Oculus Rift. I'm actually going to try to crash a conference that's happening in LA when I get back. That's why I have to depart today, about virtual reality. Right? So this is something that when I heard Oculus Rift, I thought that's awesome for gaming. For me as a journalist, that's too high of a threshold. I can't afford a 3D artist. That's not another skill set that I'm going to master. So that's awesome for video gaming. But then I heard of this company called Matterport. And what they've done is they've invented a camera that is just like a point-and-shoot camera, but what it's doing is scanning the room and making instant 3D models. So I don't think I linked it. Yeah, I don't think I linked it. But if you go to Matterport.com, you can interact with the 3D model. It's mind-blowing. And when I saw this, I added it with this, and I thought, I can tell a story here. I can recreate history and have people immerse themselves into this, whether it's Oculus Rift or potentially Google Glass, right? Historic events on campus or around our city and our community. I'm also looking at hacking gestures. Has anyone heard of the Mayo? I'm nerding out, so. There's one hand in the back, yeah, Mayo, right? So this is, again, this is like, everyone thinks of Minority Report, and we see this in the movies. This is real life, y'all. We live in the future. Welcome. And this is a thing that goes on your forearm, and it knows your muscle movement, right? Gesture controls. What can that do for journalism? Hell if I know, but I want to try it out, right? Someone's got to ask those questions. Someone's got to try it out, and I'm going to take one for the team. I'm hoping I don't get cancer on my wrist or on the side of my head with glass. I'll find out and let you know. But this is all hacking for journalism, not hacking journalism, no. Because what we care about does not change. Doesn't matter if it's in pixels or paper, broadband or broadsheet. I'm doing journalism, you're doing journalism, and the core values that Bob Steele helped define apply here, whether he's wearing Google Glass or not. Someone tweet that to him. So it doesn't matter the device, right? I'm hacking for journalism. I can send you the picture if you want. I'm hacking for journalism. I'm not hacking journalism. One of the rules I have with my students and when I give a workshop is journalism first, technology second. Before there was Twitter, there was journalism. After Twitter, there will be journalism. Journalism will outlive Google, will outlive Facebook, will outlive print products, but it will evolve and always be present because someone always wants to know what's up and someone always wants to find out first. And that's our job, to collect information and distribute it ethically, accurately and ethically, right? So that's our job. I am a geek and a nerd, and I'm nerding out about gesture controls and putting stuff on my face, but I'm using that for journalism, right? These are tools that I'm hijacking and hacking for journalism. That's not the end game. Yay, Oculus Rift. Yay, something on my wristwatch, right? But it's journalism. I'm creating content that is important and essential. And so I want you to remember a couple things to put these things in context. First, number one, the Glass is the Zach Morris phone. Hopefully you guys know that reference. Gordon Gekko phone for those of a different age group, right? If you see that phone, that was the cell phone. That looks ridiculous right now, right? That's what we're going to think about when glass evolves a few more iterations. It's going to look ridiculous when we look back in just a few years. And the other thing I've learned when it comes with technology, haters are going to hate. So it's part of my business to always try to convince people and always put it into context, right? I do this for journalism. Thank you guys, and for those who remember Hackers, Hack the Planet. It's a really bad movie. You should watch it. I highly recommend it. So I went through that pretty fast because I wanted us to have a conversation. There are questions that I can pose, but let's chat.
So we thought we'd open it up to your questions, or I will ask questions about ethics, but I see hands, so let's do that. Here's one, and Cheryl's got.
Hi there. My first question is about how you were saying content is key, but what about the comprehension aspect? Like, so many people are going to see 500 words a minute, but if they don't get the point of the story, then what's the point of the content?
So that's essential. That's what it means by content. Just because I can write on a keyboard doesn't mean I can write a great story. Just because I have a pen and paper doesn't mean I'm an artist, right? It's still the content. What I shy away against is a term that starts, when people start to sound like kids today. Kids today aren't reading papers anymore. They're getting dumber. No, they're getting information in a variety of different ways. Kids today, no, it doesn't work that way. Content is still content. When our job as journalists is not cat videos. Our job is to inform our society. Our job is protected by the First Amendment to inform and empower our community so they can be an informed, democratic society. Whether I'm informing them to find out where their tax money is going to, or how the team played last night, or where to go eat, it's still information, and it has to be relevant information, right? Just because I have content doesn't mean you're going to engage with it. But I need to have relevant, useful, reliable, ethical content, and I need to not put my nose up and be like, kids today on Snapchat. No, if they're using Snapchat, let's go to them, right? If it's yo, let's embrace yo. Let's be relevant. But yeah, it does come down to, it's still got to be useful, quality content. Another question? In the back? Microphone heading up. Up, 2 microphones heading. Next question, raise your hand so the next microphone.
Hi. I was kind of wondering, how do you prioritize what you want people to see? I feel like there's so much information, content that comes out, and sometimes the real story can get lost. So how do you make sure that the real information, is comprehended by your public?
So I'm not a typical media consumer. So, and for the record, neither are any of you here. We're media junkies, we're paying attention, we know who the president is, right? You've seen the Jay sidewalk conversations, and who is your mayor? I don't know. So factoring that in, there's a couple things that are happening that are really powerful for journalism. Never before in the history of man have people been consuming so much media. And part of that media is journalism. And hopefully, in addition to that cat video, you're getting news. It's a balanced meal. But there's a lot of noise in there. And that, for me, amplifies our job and responsibility as a journalist. You're not just going to a beat and talking to sources, but you're looking at the landscape and saying, that voice over there, that one's accurate. There's a breaking news thing from this guy who happens to be in his mom's basement. I don't care. If it's useful information for my community, that's a source. I don't just retweet. I'm not a microphone just for everybody. I go and I get this tip and I go do reporting. And I put that out there, right? So that is our job, to amplify the signal and reduce the noise, essentially. But it's a tricky thing, and there are some technological things coming along to help. Right? We used to say, and still say, we give voice to the voiceless. We didn't do a great job, y'all. Ask people of color and different minorities. So technology has done a great job to help give voice to the voiceless, but our job now is to amplify those voices, truth squad them, find them, make sure they're accurate, right? Just because it's in a data set doesn't mean it's true. I tweeted out an article, investigative piece about the Chicago crime numbers. It turns out the cops were kind of hiding and fudging the data, right? So how can we make conclusions if the data isn't accurate from the sources we're hoping to believe? Well, then that opens another door, which is maybe we need to start collecting our own data. All the stuff that's out there, there are things like Twitter, your friends, the folks you believe in, the influencers that help you find news, and news comes to you. Whether you're a news junkie or if you don't care about the news and all you care about is Kanye and the latest stupid thing he said, right? When 9/11 happened, we all found out about news, whether you were a news junkie or not. When Obama was elected the first time, newspapers across the country sold out, right? News will always bubble up. The day-to-day stuff, you know, we're news junkies, we'll find out, but there are different techniques you can use. One app that I use that I like a lot is called Zeit. They were bought by CNN and then now sold to Flipboard. Zeit is a great app that follows my social network and what I'm reading and what I'm tweeting. And every time I launch that app, it finds something new for me that I am sharing. So that's one way that I personally try to consume information in a different way. But I'm also listening to Morning Edition on my analog radio in the bathroom. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't read newspapers anymore, although I have a newspaper rack in my office. It used to be in my living room. I don't need newspapers, but I read articles from news organizations. Hopefully that answered your question a little bit, all over the place. Another question?
More questions? All right, Robert, I'm going to ask you one ethics question.
Okay.
So I would say most of us will acknowledge that journalism is about relationships. We talked about that a little bit. And the relationships between you and your source, you and your editor, you and your organization. Do you think that devices change the relationship?
Has your relationship with your significant other or your parents changed because of the phone that's in your pocket or your purse? Yes. We can argue whether it's for better or for worse. Who has been forced to friend their parent on Facebook? Look at the sad face there. So my father-in-law, this is live streaming. I'm not going to say that story.
I made my kids do that. I made my kids friend me.
So as a parent, you know what's happening, and with your, by the way, they probably put you on a list that kind of censors things, or they might have another account where they're real. So, but these are new technologies that, for better or for worse, are changing our relationships. And there will always be this kind of perception and change of narrative. When I bring a microphone and I put it in your face, it changes our relationship if I'm interviewing you. A good journalist, though, puts their source at ease. We talk first. We get to know each other first. You know what my agenda is. I'm on deadline. I'm doing the story on this. I'm being transparent. Hey, do you mind if I record this, right? That's ethical journalism. Now, if it's on my face, that's that new challenge. A lot of people think when Google Glass is happening, are you recording me? No, your life isn't that boring, especially with this battery life not lasting long. But when it's recording, the light is on. Right, so a lot of people talk about that, right? I remember a story in Japan about cell phones and upskirt crime that was happening in Japan. Camera phones did not make a shutter sound when people were taking a picture. Why? Because there's no shutters, right? There's no shutter speed on a digital camera. So they required the sound of the camera shutter be added to the phone, right? That's a traditional type of response. That's what we're going to evolve with these new wearables. That's going to affect our social contract. What I like about it, though, is that it is changing, is that I feel like this device, for better or for worse, has made people freak out about privacy. We're all late to the conversation about privacy because, like, I also believe if we have privacy, it's privacy. But if this makes us more aware of these cameras, are you aware how many cameras are in this building, let alone this campus? Do you think it's the government? No, that's your campus cops and for your security and things like that. Are they all used for good? Hopefully, but all? Probably not. Just history of human beings and temptation of power. That evolves. But yeah, this is just another evolutionary step. You're folks who are like, who's old enough to remember pagers? Right? If you had a pager in my day, you were a drug dealer. No, not really. Or a doctor. Or Dr. No. So there are different pieces of technology change our behavior. We're evolving. Whether we're going to argue whether it's for better or for worse, I think that's almost like a futile exercise. It's better to find out how can we use this, co-opt this technology for good, and for our good, that's journalism.
Any more questions? All right, Robert's here for just a little while longer, so we want to thank you so much for being here.
Having me.
We'll see you.
Cool. Cool. Oh, awesome! Thank you.
You know, I really do want to thank Robert for that really fascinating conversation. And I want to say that I wouldn't have expected anything less from someone who teaches at my alma mater. So I just have to throw that out there.
Sorry.
There you go.